We go to Ann Wagner, Missouri. Ambassador.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for hosting this hearing. Hezbollah is obviously a constant violent threat to our allies and to us. The joint statement released by the U.S. and Saudi Arabia last month expressed the importance of supporting the Lebanese state in order to disarm Hezbollah. But I, along with many of my colleagues, are concerned that financial support to Lebanon may mean empowering Hezbollah. Dr. Asher and Mr. Malls, kind of as a follow-on to Congressman Yoho's questioning, it's well known that Syrian women and children are at risk of being trafficked in Lebanon. We also know that Hezbollah generates revenue from drug trafficking and allegedly human trafficking in the Americas. Can you please discuss Hezbollah's involvement in human trafficking in Lebanon, Syria, globally?
I have one specific case I can't discuss, but I'm aware of one of the top tier targets. We call them super facilitators. We actually had a thing called the Iran Hezbollah Super Facilitators Initiative, targeting key functional financiers for the Hezbollah-Iran network globally. And I'm aware of one very significant case of Syrian children being trafficked all the way into West Africa by this individual. And it was a very painful case for us because the U.S. government was well aware of it, and we did nothing. And it still haunts me that these poor children, and they were like young girls and boys, were sent to a heinous country in West Africa, probably to their death, because the guy in charge seemed to like torturing children. So, you know, that is one case, and he was definitely a Hezbollah senior functional official, also tied to the Iranians.
Disturbing, but thank you, Dr. Asher. Dr. Carlin, your testimony on Iran-Hezbollah relations was fascinating. Can Lebanon or other actors help fill a void that with the Lebanese Shia who are dependent on Hezbollah, as you testimony laid out, in terms of political representation and economic opportunities? And could you also maybe flesh out for me the factors preventing these opportunities?
Thank you very much for that question. I'm delighted that that was useful. There are ways to fill this void, particularly if you look at strengthening Lebanon economically. So what we've seen because of the Syria conflict is people who are joining Hezbollah because they don't have job opportunities, and Hezbollah pays, obviously. So to the extent you could look at microloans or other types of assistance, so that when you go into these areas where Hezbollah is strong, you actually see other entities there. What I find most interesting on political representation, ma'am, is that you do hear some alternative voices to Hezbollah, but in particular, over the last few years, there are fewer and fewer people in Lebanon defending Hezbollah, and that quiet is meaningful and notable.
Interesting. Well, and Dr. Carlin, I'll just stay with you for a moment. On Tuesday, we witnessed U.S.-led airstrikes near Al-Tanf and on Iranian-backed militias in Syria. How interconnected are Hezbollah and these militias, and do you believe that economic sanctions on these militias could help stem Hezbollah's financing?
Thank you for that question. I, too, am really concerned about what's happening right now around Al-Tanf. We see U.S. military getting more involved here, and it is very conceivable something could happen with these militias or with Hezbollah. I think the Hezbollah-militia relationship is extremely tight. They are very much looking to one another. I defer to my colleagues regarding the financial piece, but my instinct is if you can help, we can win. That's largely beneficial.
Anyone else?
I'll just add on 2 points, both of which are in my written testimony. One is absolutely we need to be targeting not just Hezbollah, but the other Shia militias with which it's partnering very, very closely. And to get to some of the earlier questions, both of them together with Iranian soldiers and operatives on the ground in Syria. Al-Tanf is something we need to look at very, very closely. In the wake of that strike that you mentioned, Hezbollah issued a kind of veiled warning to the U.S. not to cross Hezbollah's red lines in the area. And the other thing regarding Dr. Asher's comment on the super facilitators. I mentioned briefly in my oral remarks the need to target these key networks. In my written testimony, I get into detail that we should be targeting among those the super facilitators, some of whom, I think including the one that Dr. Asher was referring to, are really, they are Hezbollah people. Others are not. Others, they're not Hezbollah operatives. They're criminals. They're super facilitators who will help Hezbollah today and some other criminal enterprise tomorrow. But they play these mission-critical roles, whether it's money laundering or accessing banks, and we should be targeting them as well, even if they're not card-carrying Hezbollah members, because they're providing mission-critical, particular logistic and financial support to Hezbollah.
I thank you all, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe I'm out of time, and I'll yield back.
We are